Hello and welcome to Marketing Tech. Today we're talking to Doc Sheldon, is a friend of mine. We've been friends for many years. And welcome, Doc.
Oh, David, thanks for having me. I'm enjoying it.
Cool. So I've known you as a kind of a content guy. I remember you back in the past where you had lots of employees and you did lots of content writing. And you told me you've kind of moved on to some other things. What are you doing now?
Well, my partner manages the content agency now, and I started several years ago. I started my SEO agency, Intrinsic Value SEO, and I gradually migrated away from the organic side into the technical side. So now I'm pretty much focused on, I do tech audits, get the site dialed in terms of speed, indexability, everything from image optimization to, basically anything that will make the site more sleek, more responsive, more secure. And, that's what I really enjoy doing. I like working on the technical side. So.
Yeah, getting a website faster is just really important. I mean, I've been saying that for years, even before Google started pushing it. I remember watching Marissa Mayer at one of the Google events many, many years ago. She spoke about when they first created Google Maps, how that they were able to, just by reducing the load time on Google Maps from it was a small amount, like maybe 200 or 150 megabytes to 100. And so, but that dramatically, I can't remember the number, but it was some large percentage of engagement that they increased by doing that. And it's funny, we talk about that today with, I've seen people with 1 megabyte websites or even, huge load times. What's the worst one you've run into?
Believe it or not, and this is a real outlier. I actually had a prospect come to me about a year and a half, 2 years ago, 128 seconds to load the homepage. But it's not at all uncommon to find one that's taken, 18, 22, 25 seconds just to load the homepage.
What do you shoot for?
Well, I do an awful lot of work with WordPress. Mm-hmm. And, it's not a brag, it's just a statement. I've never yet found a WordPress site that I couldn't get down to consistently load in 2 seconds or less.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
But not out of the box. It takes some tweaking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done that before. I do that service for people sometimes. I specialize in pay-per-click, but I occasionally take on the occasional programming type job and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, I like to try to at least get down to 3 seconds or less.
Yeah,
and generally I can get down to under 2.
So you're located in Mexico, right?
I'm in Mexico right now, hunkered down with the rest of the pandemic world.
Cool. So do you? So what kind of a computer do you use down there? Do you, as far as your daily driver?
I've got a Dell. I forget the model now. Optiplex desktop.
Okay.
Built, it's a custom built, but it's not exactly. I had a much more heavy duty when I built it. It was not. I don't game, but it was basically a gaming system that I beefed up a little bit because I liked the processor and the graphics card it had, right. And my power supply fried, and in the process took out the motherboard and the drive and everything else. So I picked this up. Local guy here has a repair shop. I went down there to see what he had, and we kind of cobbled one together that it's not what I'd like to have, but it does the job.
Sure. Well, how much memory does it have?
I got 32 gig of RAM.
That's what I run with as well.
I got two terabytes of drive. So.
Do you use an SSD drive?
No, I'm not. I'm still on an old-fashioned. I'm getting ready to build a new system. In fact, that's something you and I are going to talk about offline because I need some guidance.
Oh, I've got some real good advice.
But I want to build a new system, and I'm going to go to at least SSD on my primary.
Yeah, SSDs have gotten so cheap, and as I told Dave Davies, there's 3 kinds of hard drives now. There's the one you have, and then there's the normal SSD, and then there's the M.2, which is called NVMe hard drives, which are at least 4 times or more faster than an SSD. And they've
Yeah, I
got
had never heard of those. When you talked to Dave about that the other day, I looked it up, and my God, those things are lightning fast.
shockingly fast.
They're not cheap, but they're
They're
not nearly.
they're getting a lot cheaper. And so what a lot of people will do will just get a 256 or a 500 and just use that as their OS drive. And then you get a bigger SSD or even a normal hard drive as your second drive and just install the programs on your second drive. The main reason is because like even games, very few of them really matter where they're installed. Some of them do actually, but most of the time it has to do with just the load time when you first open the screen, but everything's loaded into memory at that point.
Yeah.
So the operating system is very important. And if you do any kind of video editing, you want to make sure you do editing off of your operating system hard drive and stuff as well.
Sure.
Yeah, it can. It's real important how you set up a computer, and a lot of people don't understand that. And it can dramatically affect that. And I've actually got several different types of memory here at the house. I'm going to do a video on kind of how they affect things and the differences of speed and that kind of things, and tabs and Chrome and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know how to install components. And where I really run into difficulty is trying to determine these days, what is compatible with what in terms of your processor, your motherboard, your graphic card, different peripherals. It's so easy, and I've done this once. I go out and buy hardware, and I found out, well, this is a really nice processor. This is a really nice motherboard. Wouldn't it be nice if it had a socket that would accept that processor? But so you got the compatibility. That's really one of the areas I'd like to pick your brain a little bit on. Because
I'm actually on top of things right now. I built 2 machines recently. If you can see them over there, you can see at least one of them with all the lights on it. I started building one kind of more cheaper machine, just to kind of do daily work with. And then I don't know, it kind of got a hold of me, and I started upgrading. So I ended up building 2 machines. So my second machine now is this giant gaming machine. So it's got like the latest, greatest stuff in it. It's not the very top of the line, but it's close. It's you start getting diminishing results after a certain point, but I got it up there pretty good, and it'll play any game pretty much. It's amazing. But yeah. So how many monitors do you use with that?
I've got 3. I've got a 31-inch smart TV set up as one of them, with my big monitor, and then I've got a couple of. I got a 27 and a 24. Right. And
you told me when we first logged on, that's a background. Those aren't actually your monitors behind you, right?
No. My wife would probably divorce me if I ended up, building something like that.
I think Dave Davies has had something like that at some point. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. I don't even know why you would need that many unless you're a stockbroker or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool. So you said you work mostly in WordPress. What do you use to help you with the speed optimization? Are there special plugins that you use?
No, not really. In fact, a good friend of mine of many years that you may know her or not, Marge Wyatt.
No.
We've spent an awful lot of time chatting over the years, and she is not a big fan of plugins.
No, I can understand.
and she taught me, and kept egging me on until she finally broke down my resistance. So now what I do is I try to figure out what the function is that I need. If I can, maybe on GitHub, I can find a script that'll do it. Sometimes I'll find a plugin that'll do it, and I'll go in and dissect it and just find what I want, the one function of the 12 they offer, and try to pull that in. I'll drop it into a child theme as a separate function. Because I've had clients come to me, they're running 82 plugins.
Sure.
And it's just, there's part of your problem right there, But there's so many of them now, both custom themes and plugins, that they're just so bloated. They've got, 115 different options you can use, and you may only use 3 of them.
Right.
But when you make your call to the server, it's trying to download all of them. So,
right. I find that with like Adobe Creative Cloud and even Microsoft Office. Here I'm paying all this money per month. I have to pay monthly for both of those services, and I'm only probably using 10% of it. I hate that I have to keep paying for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be a real hassle. So, and when you're in your daily work, what are the programs you use besides Chrome and Excel? Do you use anything else?
Lighthouse.
What is
Obvious.
Lighthouse?
I'm sorry.
What is Lighthouse?
Lighthouse is the version I'm using is actually an add-on to Chrome, but it's basically it's a great analysis tool for looking at in terms of speed. It'll look at markup. Oh, geez, I should pull it up because I haven't gotten into it in a couple of weeks. But I mean, it does quite a lot. Speed, responsiveness. It'll give you a lot of things. It's kind of like there was one that was I used to use it back when I was using Firefox. It was an add-on there. Oh God, what was it? I started with an R, and I just went blank now. I guess it's contagious, but it was nice. It's kind of like developer tools. You could pull up your page, and you could open developer tools. I use developer tools a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
So you can see what your markup is. To take a look at your elements, find out what where things are breaking down, and because I work in WordPress a lot, I spend an awful lot of time in my editor.
Right.
Functions file and CSS and whatnot. I always use a child theme, so I'll do an awful lot of my modifications right there in the editor in the child.
Right.
And it's but as far as commercial tools, I used Screaming Frog for several years. I still use it. When I do an audit, for instance, I'll usually use several tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I use Screaming Frog, but I have migrated to Sitebulb.
Right.
I really like the drill down. There's an awful lot of information that is offered in either Screaming Frog or Sitebulb, but Sitebulb makes it very easy to find.
Right.
Once you're chasing a particular kind of critter, it's a natural progression. You can just dial. You can just keep drilling down. In Screaming Frog, you got to back out of that screen and go a different direction to find it. So I just for ease of operation, I found that Sitebulb was handier for me.
So is Sitebulb a hosted solution, or is it something like Screaming Frog?
You actually download it to your system.
Do you do that from home, or do you actually get rent a server somewhere?
No, I do it from home because I don't do a lot of enterprise stuff. I rarely get into, if a site that has 50,000 pages is something I consider pretty sizable. If somebody comes to me, they want an audit on a 2 million page, I pass them on to Alan. So, that's more his bailiwick.
Alan Bleisweiss?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Bleiweiss?
Bleiweiss, yeah. Yeah, I've worked with him before as well. Currently, I'm working with him. He's a good guy. Hopefully, I'll have him on soon. As far as, when you get done with those, do you end up with giant spreadsheets?
Yeah, I work in Excel. What I'll do is I'll download a CSV from each of the tools that I'm working with, and I'll import them into an Excel book, and then I can start transposing between pages, tabs of the book, and doing comparisons.
Right.
But it's not the most efficient way. But I've worked with Excel and and Lotus 1, 2, 3 for so many years that I'm fairly comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I still have this plot in the back of my mind. One of these days, I'm going to kidnap Annie Cushing.
Yeah.
Just to lock her in a room and pick her Excel brain.
Yeah. I'm mostly self-taught. Are you self-taught as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It makes it kind of hard because what ends up happening is we become complete experts, sort of, in some ways, but then we might have some middle stuff that we completely left out.
It's funny, David. Just this morning, I was doing some modifications on one of my own sites, and I found I told you I do a lot of WordPress. I've been doing WordPress since it, for WordPress org first came out.
Right.
And I found a function that I have been traditionally doing in my editor that actually exists in the admin panel. That I didn't have to go into the editor to do that. I could have just go in there, click the right box. I don't know how long that function has existed. I'm pretty sure it wasn't always there, but That's kind of embarrassing because, like you say, we get in this gutter, this rut of doing things the way we do them, and it's not always the best way, not always the most efficient way.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a few classes in programming, but most of my programming has been self-taught, or I'll basically Google stuff. Like I wrote a program yesterday where I had to go, and a guy had a complete flat file website, and so I had to go and change every file to lowercase. So I wrote a little quick program. That wasn't too hard. But then I had to go in and look at every single page and make sure all the hrefs and source links were also lowercase. So I had to write a program to do that as well. I mean, it took me a lot longer than someone else, and I probably didn't do it the most efficient way, but I get it done. And so I do that with just about everything. Sometimes I might take 50 steps when, an experienced person might take 4,
Yeah.
I can get it done.
I've been there. Something that dawned on me not too long ago. I went to GitHub and found a script to do what I needed to do, and it worked. It accomplished the goal.
Right.
But I tried to replicate it on another site that wasn't a WordPress site, and it just it created all sorts of problems. So I was talking to somebody over there and asking them, okay, why does this work here? Well, it's because it's first of all, you've got a different PHP version.
Right.
That could be the problem. But basically, you've got an entirely different database structure.
Right.
And it's not going to sort it the same way, so it's not going to work. And I said, well, yeah, I wish I'd known that when I picked that up here from so-and-so. And he says, well, you got to realize, what you also picked up from so-and-so is so-and-so's habits of 20 years.
That's true, yeah.
We all have our way of doing things, and it's not right or wrong. It's just what it is,
There's always a million ways to do certain things.
Yeah, and I find, because I am self-taught, I'll go to places like Stack Exchange or GitHub and find things. And I realize, that I'm not just learning a solution to my problem. I'm also learning the perhaps bad, perhaps good habits of the guy that provided it.
Yeah, like on the project I was just talking about, one of the issues too is that his server is it's an IIS server, and there actually are a few ASP pages, but generally it's HTML, and but it also has PHP installed, but it has an HT-access file. It just occurred to me that's kind of odd. I didn't even know that IIS used the HT-access files, but whatever. So there's a line in his HT-access file that works on his server but doesn't work on mine because it's a depreciated system. So I was trying to figure out a solution to it, because what it does is it's the first line in the one of the first lines in the HT-access, and it redirects any URL with a uppercase letter into a lowercase letter. and so that's why I went ahead and did all this other stuff, so that'll rarely be used after Google figures it all out and stops coming there for the most part.
Yeah, I got a cold chill when you said IIS.
Yeah, that's how I got my start. I was a Microsoft certified systems engineer in 1997 or so, and that's how I started off. I was a systems engineer, and I worked in IT at different companies, and so that's how I started off working on web servers. I was doing IIS and Microsoft Exchange and backups, and that was what I was usually in charge of at a company. When I would go there, I'd be in charge of backup email and IIS servers. And this is Windows NT 4.0. It was back in that day. And so I didn't really get introduced to LAMP and probably until the early 2000s, early aughts as they call it. And so did you ever work with Microsoft at all, or did you mostly LAMP?
IIS, I got into one project with that, and it kicked my butt.
Yeah.
So, I've talked about it a lot with Terry Van Horn. He's an IIS junkie. He loves that stuff. Yeah. But he knows it. He understands it. And it just kind of befuddled me a little bit, because it was so different, the approach, that I just kind of shied away from it.
Yeah. Well, the original ASP was very similar to PHP at the time. Now they've drastically different. ASP.NET is just remarkably different.
Been around a long time.
Yeah. I worked at a company that was all Microsoft, and they had an ASP.NET website, and it was a nightmare working with them, because they told me that, because I was just learning how that worked, and they would tell me that ASP.NET is really makes hard things easy and makes easy things hard. So most of the time for SEOs, I'm asking for something easy. I just want this to stop happening or this to change that. And they're like, well, gosh, that's really hard. I'm like, that's like one change on a PHP website. And so it was just a nightmare. And so we actually had a situation where they had designed it in such a way that for only Googlebot, I don't know why, but specifically to Googlebot, they gave session IDs. And so, and they could not for the life of them figure out how to stop that. And I was like, as the SEO, I was like, we need to stop that.
So, why in the world? I wonder what their motivation was for that.
It wasn't on purpose. It was an accident because his ASP.NET makes hard things easy. So it's not WYSIWYG, but there's a lot of just do this, and it goes and does that. You don't have to program 10 pages. You just say, I want to do this, and it is a lot rapid deployment in some sense. It makes it a lot easier. But sometimes you have if you go and look at an ASP.NET website, you will see unreal long, extremely long IDs and all kinds of bizarre stuff just bloated out of ridiculousness. And so the only solution, because this was a big website, and so we had it was on 10 different servers behind a load balancer. And so my solution was that I ended up converting one of those servers. I took off Windows Server off of it because they were all Windows Server running IIS. And so I blew it away and put LAMP on it. And then I told the load balancer to send all traffic from Googlebot to this one server and not go to any of the other ones. And then it would actually, whatever request Googlebot made for, my PHP, that was a one-page thing. The little PHP program would actually go and pull it from the other server, fix it up, and then send it back out there. It was kind of cloaking, but not really. I mean, all it did was just stop some stupid
that's what I was getting ready to ask, because there's any chance that could be seen as cloaking by Google?
No, I mean, I'm not sure how things are now, but at the time, I talked to Matt Cutts about it, several other people, and back then the wisdom was cloaking is fine. There is such a thing as white hat cloaking, as long as the pages aren't, you're not doing it in a nefarious way. You're not trying to as long as it looks essentially the same to both, and it did, because Googlebot was the only one getting that. So if a human from Google went to our website, they wouldn't see the session IDs either. And it really wasn't on page anyhow. It was just the IDs in the URL. So that's a little bit different. So it was not an issue. And
I remember Matt saying one time that as long as what is seen is identical or functionally and aesthetically the same, then cloaking is okay. And it kind of threw me, because he'd always, cloaking was always a nasty word in his videos.
Yeah.
But, well, it makes sense,
Right. From, when I talk, Matt Cutts has said things for me a long time, and Isles, and who's the other guy now that talks for Google?
John
Mueller, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a lot of things they say, and then us as technical SEOs, we read it and we're like, oh, this doesn't mean that, or he's saying this wrong or whatever. But a lot of times they're talking about, generally speaking, they're trying to communicate to the the 95%, and we're talking about the 5%. We don't, because the vast majority of people out there don't know anything about SEO, and Google's trying to affect them. Very few websites actually truly have a professional, knowledgeable SEO working on them. It's kind of rare, actually, considering how many websites there are out there. So is there anything else you use for your daily work? I mean, how many tabs do you normally have open on Google Chrome?
I have caught myself with just a few weeks ago. I had 72 tabs open when I was shut down. Normally, I'm probably going to be anywhere from a dozen to 24.
Oh wow! Okay.
But that's everything on my browser, and I may have 5 or 6 different pages up simultaneously on one site.
Yep. Yeah, I try to do that too. But what I find myself doing is that my brain will just think about something random, and I'll just Google it, and then that'll send me down some rabbit hole. And then I get done. I'm like, what was I doing? Oh yeah. Oh, that was the page I have to figure out how to get back to where I was. I didn't open up a new tab.
My favorite, my alt tab keys are probably the ones that get wiped clear, because I use those. I pull up all the windows you have and try to recognize the one you're looking for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I discovered a few years ago, it's just changed my life, is that I think it's Shift T or Control Shift T or something like that. And what it does is it opens up the tab you just closed, because I'm always just like closing things like, oh, wait, I needed that. Have you ever used that one?
Not that way. I often do it right up actually in my tab bar. I do a right click and reopen last tab.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Well, see, because I'm legally blind, I was trained how to do everything with keyboard shortcuts. Plus, I also came up in the WordPress days WordPerfect days, where you had to use the F keys and everything. There was no mouse back in the DOS days. So I kind of came up in those days where everything was hotkeys. So I try to do hotkeys for everything. I rarely try to use my mouse. I do all the Control O for open and print, and especially the selecting text, shift end and that kind of stuff, and trying to select my text as well. Are you more of a mouse or a keyboard person?
More of a mouse. I do use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, but I shouldn't say I use I use some, but I use my mouse the most. Cool. I used to use a digitizing tablet when I was doing a lot of CAD drawings. I had a nice digitizing tablet. Yeah, and I found a program that would let me actually, if I had a particular screen that I was normally working on, like let's say, for your website, for instance, I could actually print a print screen, lay it on my digitizing tablet, and then use the pen to move my cursor around on the monitor.
Yeah. I'm trying to do something like that. I have an iPad Pro at 12.9 inch and it has a little Apple Pencil too with it. And I've already downloaded Run program that will allow me to remote control Adobe Premiere. It's like a loop deck type of thing where it actually gives me access to a lot of the controls for Adobe Premiere, but it puts in knobs and things like that, so it's a lot easier to use. But I think I should be able to use it as a way to control my computer using the pencil as well.
I'm sure you could if you were using a Mac. As far as interfacing it to a PC, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody hasn't developed a way, but I have a friend that has a tablet, and they use a pen in their tablet instead of a mouse.
Right.
They do a lot of graphic work.
Right. Yeah, my iPad Pro is really nice. The reason I got the big one is because I can't see very well, and I need to hold it up so close. Even with the 12.9 inch iPad, I still hold it 2 or 3 inches from my face. It's kind of funny. One of the problems I find is if I'm ever laying on the couch, I have to be careful. If I kind of fall asleep or just relax my hand or something, let go of it, it can come back and hit me in the face. I thought I broke my nose one time because it's kind of heavy. It comes and whacks me on the head.
It'll wake you up.
Yeah, and I've got a big Defender, OtterBox Defender thing on it, so it's over 2 pounds. That thing just whacks you right there. I think it gave me a bruise on my eyebrow one time. It was pretty painful. So thank you so much for coming, Doc. I love talking to you as always. Anything else you want to talk about? You want to mention your 2 websites that your company has?
Well, I can. The SEO site is intrinsicvalueseo.com. And the agency, the content agency, is topshelfcopy.com. And Christy Waterworth is my partner and managing editor over there. And she runs that, the crew, and me with an iron fist.
All right. Well, and I'm David Ogletree, and I do WMEtraining.com if you need any pay-per-click training or consulting. And thank you so much, Doc, for coming, and I look forward to seeing you online later today.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate the invite, and I always enjoy shooting the breeze with you, David.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.